No, with Daniel, your brother.
Yeah, the last 5 years. Yeah, last 5 years. So we were always close as brothers. We come from a big family, so we have 7 siblings. And but me and him love golf, so we were always practicing together, training together. And when I was coaching on tour, he had another coach, but I kind of shied away from it. I was always worried about doing family and business, and me and him are really, really close. And so I was like, man, if we mess this thing up, I don't want to be like at family dinner or family holidays and like having to be awkward with the sibling I've grown up with the most. We've spent so much time together on a golf course. So, we ended up spending the last 5 years together, and it was great. I always just, yeah, it was better than I thought it would be. So I'm glad we ended up doing it, and we have a lot of great memories of the time we worked together.
And I mean, you would know him better than anybody. Growing up with him, you'd
Yeah,
know exactly six, and
yeah,
all the
for sure.
tendencies from day one.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he liked that in the sense that not just with the golf swing, but just I knew him and his personality and the way he thought or some of his tendencies for sure. And I think that was helpful for sure. He had a couple of nice years, and he struggled a little bit at the end of his career. Um, I think he might be done playing. It sounds like. I think he's going to become a school teacher. That's something he's always wanted to do. My little brother's a great athlete. He's great at his pickleball's his passion. So he loves golf, but you do it long enough and it can beat you up a little bit. But pickleball, he absolutely loves. But he's a great basketball player, great bowler, good tennis player, great ping pong player. So he's going to be the teacher at the high school where we went as kids for the physical ed, and then probably teach some business classes and leadership classes as well. So I think that's where he's going right now.
That's so different.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah,
different.
yeah.
The
He's a super smart kid, really hard worker. He was a 4.0, perfect grades in high school and college. He was a great student, worked hard. Everyone knows. Like Alex Norton has a great work ethic on tour. He's famous for it. Vijay Singh, my brother, would practice nonstop. And I respect that about him. I love him for it. And to see him go a different direction and want to get into teaching is pretty cool. Teaching. Not he's teaching some golf, but teaching at school, and be home more. I know that he's been smart with his money, and he obviously doesn't need too much money, and he's going to work off that teacher salary and doing a few other things, but he'll be great at it. I think he'll really enjoy it. It's like me with coaching. Like I played for so long, and I never considered even coaching. It never crossed my mind. I was always a player. I was known as a player in my mind, and when I started coaching, it's just a different buzz. Nothing will compare to you actually hitting the shots and you being in the fire of competition, but being able to help someone enjoy the game more or help them have a better career or do it better, there's a real it gives me a buzz for sure. It's a great feeling. So I think he'll find that in being a school teacher, that he'll feel like he's of value and feel really have some rewarding moments with those kids for sure.
And I mean, look at your kids,
Hmm.
and I mean, they've done amazing this year. I always think it's really hard teaching your own kids
Yeah,
because
yeah, it's as hard as
invariably,
every
you
yeah,
know
it's
what I
as
mean?
hard as everybody thinks it is. I think a lot of coaches, their kids don't even play too much. Whether their dads are coaching all the time to where it's hard to have time for them, or they just are around it so much they're not even that interested in it. I see that happen quite a bit. Um, with me, I'm pretty honest about like, my dad coached me and my little brother. He did some great things, and I started realizing how great of my dad was. Really patient with us. At times I thought your memory will go back to the few times you got chewed out or a couple of incidences, but in general, man, when I started teaching my own kids, I thought, man, my dad's a saint. He did a great job, and he kept these cool because he had 7 kids, and we have some pictures growing up where me, my sister, and my little brother and my older sister, we're all lined up on a range, and he's helping us all. So
Oh, that's so
my dad
cool.
had a lot of patience, a lot of love for us. So um, I definitely learned some things from my dad that I was able to pass on to my kids, how to deal with them and how to treat them or how to go about it. And then also took some things that I thought, maybe I would have liked done differently a little bit and tweaked it. And I think the biggest thing that I have with my kids is that when I mess up, I'm going to just say sorry as quick as I can and mean it. It's like, say we have a big run in and I just say sorry. Well, that's not enough. It doesn't equal the run in, right? It's like I remember when Preston was 12 and he didn't play tournament golf till he was 10. Never played a tournament. He loved the game. I could tell he loved it at 5 and 6 years old. He was always wanting to be around, me and always at the golf course. But my last year playing professionally, we went up to Canada, PGA Tour Canada. That was the last place I played after I lose my card on the tour, and then played the Korn Ferry, and then PGA Tour Canada. We won it for 8 weeks in Canada, and his sister Grace, her birthday's July 9th. Mom made him stay home at the hotel and celebrate his sister's birthday. Other than that, Preston was with me every second of every day of those 8 weeks. So if I had a 7 o'clock tee time, I had to leave the hotel at 5 to get to the course at 5:30 to warm up, get stretched out, and do the work before I played, and then practice after the round. He was with me every moment, every day. And so that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna let him do what he wants to do. And he did say that. He said, Dad, when do I get to start playing in my own tournaments? And that was he was 9, just turning 10 that summer when we were up in Canada. And so he always loved the game. And it was easy at the start because I was just teaching him. Grace was a swimmer. Cam was too young. And, I think I did some good things with Preston for sure. Got him some good instruction, started working on his swing, his skill sets. But we definitely, I think anyone that teaches their kids can attest to, it's hard to keep emotion out. As a teacher, when I'm getting paid and I'm on the lesson tee, like I pride myself in never losing my cool, never losing my patience. I never show frustration. That just does the student no good, right? And I think with your kids, it's so easy just to be really raw and really just who we are at home and just be pretty sharp and to the point, right? And there was one experience where, I only share this because I think sometimes people look on Instagram and think, man, Boyd's got it all figured out. They all just, everything's just perfect. But that's just not the truth. But when he was 12, he was 4 back going into the final round of Junior Worlds. And this is him playing 2 years of tournament golf. He's already getting the feel of tournament golf. He's getting to be pretty darn good. And he's playing a great final round. He gets up to where he's tied for the lead with 3 holes to go. Makes a few bogeys coming down the stretch. And there's a couple things I thought he could have done better. And we had an hour drive. Our family had a little family reunion like an hour and 15 minutes away, and we were going to go join them for the rest of the week. And so I'll never forget that drive. Like, I just cringe looking back on it now. I was so tough on him. I was just, could have done this. And I got to the hotel, and I was like, okay, if I keep doing this, or even, because I wasn't like that, but it was just a bad moment for me, bad coaching moment, bad dad moment. If I'm like this too often, he's just going to stop listening. He's not going to want to be around me. It's going to ruin our relationship as father and son. And if that happens, then my family was successful in real estate. My dad was a successful real estate developer, and I had 2 siblings work for him. Yeah, I was in golf because I loved it, and I wanted my kids to have those same experiences of growing up, skipping school, go play golf, hanging out with their buddies, just those great memories I had as a kid on a golf course, and I wanted them to experience that. And so I'm like, that was just a sobering and humbling moment for me where I was like, holy cow, Boyd, like, and I just, even to this day, like, we'll talk about it, and I'll just, we're very open as a family, but I'm like, man, that one still stings me. It bothers me, but you learn from it, and we've, obviously shared incredible moments together. And my coolest treasures with Preston are the flags that he signs for me after he wins big tournaments. And the USGA captured a really special moment where after he won, I guess, you can tell I've got all this scruff because during the summer, my kids play a lot of tournaments, and I'll just call it the playoff beard. I just grow the beard and grow it. And so I'm all scruffy looking, and you can tell I'm all emotional. He's emotional. I got his face in my hands, and those memories you have with your kids are special. And I think as parents, if you are teaching your kids, you got to just be careful not to be too tough, not impatient, critical to where you rob yourself of those moments where they're genuine, where your kids want you around. And so I think I'm glad that, I did understand that my dad did a great job with me and Dan. He made some mistakes. And with my kids, I just kind of said, if I make a mistake, I'm just going to say sorry as quick and as specifically and sincerely as I can, to where, they still want to be around me. And so I think it is tricky as heck to teach your own kids, because as much as I am a coach, if you asked all my students that have worked with me, I just don't lose my patience. I just try to figure out, okay, I can be saying this better. I can do it better. I can do better as a coach. I'm always thinking that. I'm never thinking, well, geez, if this student just listened better. Like, I'm always putting it on myself. And I'm really calm when I teach, but with your kids, it's easy to kind of just be impatient, And so I think that's the biggest challenge, is keeping the emotion out of it, keeping almost just acting like you're getting paid, Paying client, and the way you talk to a paying client is very different than what you'd be talking to how you talk to your kid, right? So.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the thing is, it's also how they react to you, isn't it? If you give that sense of professionalism and putting a different hat on to help them, then they react differently to that, and they actually, start to listen and know that actually, I'm putting the same amount of time into you as I would be to anybody. Because I think sometimes you can end up where actually they just end up being around all the time and don't necessarily get exactly what they need or what they feel like they want. It's so tough, and I think there's so much emotion in it, Boyd, as well, that, like you say, makes it difficult. But I mean, you look at Preston. I mean, you set the kid up to be an athlete. He was there.
He's good. I mean, I just knew that he loved it. Are you getting a little overlap on the audio? Can you hear yourself?
Yeah. Touch.
Okay. Preston, I knew he loved it, and he wanted to get that technique right and just get better at the game. So he was super coachable. He just wanted to learn and grow. And then I just tried to put him in the best situations possible. When I started teaching Tony Finau and other tour pros, I was always trying to put him with them, around them, so he could soak up not just from my experience or my teaching, but other great players, learn from them. He's learned so much from Tony being around him. Tony's incredibly tough mentally, very disciplined emotionally, doesn't get frustrated easily, doesn't get upset on the course. Preston's learned that from him, learned that from other players, little skill sets that they have. So, Preston has been having some great success, but he has a world-class work ethic. Anyone that knows him, he's been working hard for several years, and he loves the game. And that's the biggest thing, is he truly loves it. Like, he's just fascinated with the game, always trying to teach himself new short game shots and trying to learn, loves to compete and play tournaments. So, yeah, he is groomed to do some nice things. But I always say that where Preston's at, three main things could happen to keep him from reaching his potential. Is one, personal problems, just getting into trouble, getting with the wrong crowd, drugs, alcohol, just making some bad choices. Two would be injuries, and then three would be burnout. And so I'm always conscious in my mind of those three things, and I think if he kind of stays clear of those three things, I think he's going to do some great things in the game.
And he swings it great at the minute as well.
He does. He does.
Model that, because I mean, he does a lot of things that everybody would love to do.
Yeah, he does. He used to. I think it was like 10 or 11. He wanted to learn the flop shot, so I taught him the flop shot, and so he was, having a little bit of extended or cupped left wrist. He's a right-hander, so he was hitting this great flop shot, and then we got on the range, and all of a sudden he's like super open with the club face at the top, cupped left wrist, coming down. He's standing up and kind of rolling his wrist to square up the face, and I'm like, oh no, this is not good, because I knew as a player, when I stopped playing well professionally, it's when I started getting an open club face. I hit a push fade, push slice from the inside with an open club face. So I'm like, okay, we're fixing this right now. And so he has definitely has a noticeable flexed left wrist at the top. And that's from, when he was 10 or 11, having to correct that, hitting too many flop shots for too long where he had the left wrist cupped and bleeding into his swing. So he definitely has a great swing, has a great, club face positions, body positions, and he
And
he
he's a
hits it.
strong
He
kid.
hits it good. Yeah. Yeah,
You know
he's
what
a
I mean?
big
And
kid.
he's a big lad who, he creates a lot of power.
Yeah, he is. He's 6'2", getting close to 6'3". I think the good thing for him is that he was always big, probably a little bigger than the other kids he was playing against, but he wasn't strong. And so he needed to win with what I call skill sets. Like sometimes my daughter was a swimmer for a long time. She liked swimming because she was bigger and stronger than the other girls, and so she would win swim meets and competitions based on her size. It wasn't really in her strength, not necessarily because her strokes were that technically sound. And so Preston had to beat people with precision, with skill sets. And so when he was 15, he shot 65, 7 under, and then 60, 12 under in the USGA qualifying. He was swinging at 103 miles an hour. He was just super, super precise. Great chipper, great putter, wedge player, hit it really straight, didn't make mistakes. He won the men's state amateur. He was the youngest ever to win the men's state amateur. He beat his uncle Daniel, Summerhays' record, and Tony Finau's record of winning as a 16-year-old. He was swinging at 103 miles an hour that summer. He beat a great All-American, Kyler Dunkel, and he was giving up 60 to 80 yards on the guy. So when he actually got some power and some club head speed, you could see like at the U.S. Junior, he had some key shots on that back nine to win. I think the putt on 16 where he makes about a 25-footer for bogey to tie the hole as the shot that won the match for him, the U.S. Junior. But on 17, he comes out of the heavy rough over a tree, and you can see him actually push himself out of the ground and get it over the tree. That's a shot he wouldn't have had without the growth and starting to work out and get stronger. So, and it's a tricky slope because I think even at some point 2-3 months ago, he started not playing quite as good because he was trying to hit it too hard. And it was a conversation that me and a little bit of Tony talking to him was saying, hey, you're a precision player. Yeah, you're going to be big and strong, keep working out, but what made you you is that you were just good at everything. You were a good driver of the ball, you were good mentally, good chipper, putter, iron player. Everything was control and precision. And don't lose sight that you're not, if you want to become a power player, just keep on getting stronger. You're going to keep growing, get in the weight room, but still, when you get on a course, just play for precision. So, yeah, I think it helped him being not a long hitter growing up to where he had to learn the skill sets to beat people that were bigger and stronger and faster than him as he was playing higher age groups than what his age was. And then now that he's gotten bigger and stronger, he's taken a huge jump in his game.
Well, you all of a sudden you become, dangerous, don't you? When you've got that skill and precision, and then you add distance into the mix as well. But I think at different ages,
Yeah.
but we have to appreciate how you can score low with what you've got, and
Yeah.
when you are only that young age, you know, you're not blessed with mass distance. So
Yeah.
if you're not accurate and you don't stay on the short grass, the game's going to get difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, well, even the power players in the game, you got Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, Rory, Tony, who's a couple other long guys that are really, really good. Um, don't want to miss too many people that up there, but you got guys that they're known as power players, but man, they hit it really straight. I mean, don't let the stats fool you. When they hit 55% of the fairways that are pretty narrow fairways on tour, they hit it straight. They hit it good. So even the power players on tour, I consider very precise. There's not too many wild hitters as they just get ran off the tour. The tour is a driving. You got to drive the golf ball good. So yeah, I think with Preston, as he got that power, it made him a different player for sure. And he is lucky. I mean, I'm 5'11", and I'm the tallest sibling in my family. My wife's 5'6". Her dad's pretty tall, but Preston's huge. He's 220 and almost 6'3" now. Now he's not as strong as he needs to be. He's working on that. But if he just slowly gains a couple miles an hour club head speed each year for the next 3, 4, 5 years, um, he keeps somewhat of the things that have made him who he is, as far as just the accuracy and the precision and the short game. He'll do some great things in the game.
And then obviously we move on from Preston to Tony Finau,
Yeah.
who's so much potential. It's got
Yeah.
so much of the modern game, hasn't it? And
Yeah,
could go,
Tony.
you know, you could push that. He can just hit it forever.
Yeah, Tony's he's just a great guy. What you see is what you get with him. Like sometimes you see people on TV or they're famous athletes, and you're like, man, I wonder what he's like off the course. Could he really be that nice? Could he be that composed, or is he that classy? Yeah, that's who he is. That's just who he is as a person. When I think of Tony, I think of family, faith, and golf in that order. I mean, golf definitely isn't what he defines himself as. It's faith and family first, and so he's it's cool to have success with someone that is a great person because it makes the ride more enjoyable. So when we started working together, he was on the Corn Ferry tour early in his season, having a few issues with over curving the ball, over spinning the ball, and he reached out to me. We're both from Utah, born and raised, and we're a proud golfing state. At one time, my uncle played, Bruce Summerhays played the Champions Tour. Jadon Blake's from there as well. Zach Blair, Daniel Summerhays, Tony Finau. We're all playing on the tour at the same time, and then I played on the tour as well with a couple other guys from Utah. Jimmy Blair, Zach's dad, played as well. And there's a few other guys, but for a small state, we've actually had some decent players. And so we all know of each other. And so when Tony reached out to me, I already knew who he was because when he was 17 or 18 years old, I played in the same Corn Ferry Tour event with him at the Utah Championship. And he was already doing some great things. He won a Junior World Championship, and you were hearing this Finau. That was the first time I got to see him hit when he was 17, 18 years old, and the power was unreal. Like, it was crazy. Like, it was just, he had a long swing, a little across the line, dropped it to the inside, kind of hit a high draw, pretty handsy, but like so athletic, and just you could see he had unlimited power, really. By the time I saw him, he was 23 years old, and he was already trying to teach himself just to have one shot, trying to simplify the game. So he actually tried to start hitting only a cut, but it was just curving too much and spinning too much. So when he texted me in the early part of his Corn Ferry season, he said, "Hey, you got some time? I want to meet up." And at the time, I thought, well, is this kind of just a chat about the tour, maybe get some advice, mentorship, or whatever, just have a conversation. And I teach at a Muni in Utah in the summer at Davis Park Golf Club, and that's where I grew up playing at there and also Oak Ridge Country Club just right next door. But he shows up and he's in basketball shorts, basketball shoes, and a T-shirt. And so I'm like, okay, he's here to talk. And then he grabs his clubs out of the bag, his staff bag. I'm like, okay, here we go. So he was there to work. So it's been a good run together. He's a great guy, very talented, very hard worker. He's not a range rat. He will play golf, and he feels like that's where he learns the shots, get on the course. So the first few lessons were definitely on the range, getting some things to work on, and we still do some on the range. But he likes to get immediately out on the course and start to iron out whether that feel or the technique that he's learning is going to work in competition. He can feel that when he gets on a course.
And you say there when you met him early days, he was long and across the line. I mean, now he's renowned for what almost looks like a 3/4 swing.
Yeah, the driver wasn't the best club in his bag. I mean, he was known, in my opinion, he was kind of known for being super long and known for the big break a little bit. But he was known for his length. People would talk about it. Like he went and played in Sweden as an 18-year-old, and Jesper Parnevik and invited him to play in a big tournament over there. And everyone was talking about Tony's length, his power. But as we all know, if you can't kind of keep it straight enough, it just doesn't matter. And so he considers himself a precision player because he used to hit it way further. Now with this short swing, which I don't teach, it just happens to be for him. I don't think driver, he would say back in the day, was the best club in his bag. Now his power was, but he's lost some distance, but he's gained a ton of accuracy where he doesn't have to work around his driver. He actually plays to that strength. He'll hit driver as many times as he can. Him and his caddy will look at a course and just be like, okay, can I hit it here, here, here? They'll push the envelope. That's the best club in his bag now. And he didn't swing that short his first few years on tour. It kind of happened when he realized he wasn't able to hit driver as many times as he wanted. And so he lost a little bit of distance, gained a ton of accuracy, And in the process of just trying to hit it straighter, that was his natural reaction to his fairway finder or go-to shot, was it just shortened up. It wasn't like we said, okay, we're going to shorten it up. It was that he was missing too many fairways, wasn't using his driver enough, kind of playing around it. And he did it great. First few years on tour, he kind of played around his driver. Hit a lot of drivers where the fairways were bigger, where he could start his ball a little bit more left. There was nothing, no trees or anything off to the left side. And then he'd use his 3-wood and a driving iron, and he did great. But when he started to get his driver straightened out, that's when he really started to become a world-class player and make his climb up to be a top 10 player in the world and a Ryder Cupper and a President's Cup player. So now he's a driver everywhere.
Well, I remember watching him because I was at a European Tour event with Brett Rumford, and he just played in the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
I want to say a couple of weeks before, and he was practicing next to us on the range, and I didn't realise how big he was until
he's
he
huge.
appeared. And he was a lovely bloke, real.
Yeah, no,
and
he's
big,
a
and
great
he just
guy.
did it out. You know, you just looked and go, wow.
Yeah, he's a great athlete. He was a great basketball player, volleyball player. Like he is an athlete for sure, and he got a great body. He's super strong, but he's lean. He's flexible. He's got great range of motion. A lot of people will say, like, how does he hit it so far with that short swing? Well, you got to remember, he's 6'4". He's got a huge wingspan, and then he swings fast. So even though his swing is really short, he starts swinging fast. Even from his waggles, you can tell he's going to move the club head fast. So he gets plenty of club head speed from a short swing because he moves it fast from the beginning. You know, if he had a short swing with a slow tempo, he wouldn't be able to get that much power. So he's got a lot of leverage. You know, wingspan, athleticism, power. He's got, you know, strong lower body, but he swings fast. It's short and fast. It's not short and slow. Short and slow wouldn't go anywhere.
Really,
so.
yeah, it's really impressive as well when you watch it.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, you can just see him winning bigger events. You know, he's one that you look at an event and think he could win. You know what I mean? He's got more than enough game.
Yeah, I mean, I've coached him for 7 years now, and I think the thing I go back to and talk a lot about is his mental toughness. A lot of times he gets kind of labeled as he's too nice of a guy. He's not competitive enough. I mean, that couldn't be any further from the truth. You don't survive the mini tours for 6-7 years. He turned pro at 17. He didn't come from anything. A big, huge family, grew up poor. Grew up in a rough spot in Utah, Rose Park. A lot of gangs, a lot of tough stuff going on. You don't get to the tour and be that persistent and not be tough and be competitive. So I think because he has so much class and he's a very mature individual and he likes to carry himself with class and maturity, or just be a good guy, I think sometimes people misunderstand that he's not as competitive or tough as he is, because I think that's his biggest strength. You look at where he's played good at. The majors is where he shines. He's played great in the Ryder Cup, played great in the President's Cup. He loves the big moment, and it's because he's super competitive. He's super competitive, and you know, he's a hustler. You know, you don't get to the tour, you know, busting through the mini. Most people play 2 years on the mini tours, and if they don't make it, they're done. He played 6-7 years on the mini tours and was never going to stop until he got to the tour. And I think that he is gifted athletically. He's huge. He's powerful, but he's mentally tough. He gets over bad shots immediately. He doesn't get afraid. He's not intimidated by people. Even his rookie year, whenever you get paired with big name players, he played great. He's very comfortable in his own skin. He's very confident in himself, and that really shows. So yeah, he's made for his games. His skill sets are made for majors and President's Cups and Ryder Cups. Hits the ball far, hits it straight, has a lot of spin on his golf ball, can hit it high. Those are all great things for world-class golf courses. But he has the mindset, he has the toughness, and that's why he's had so much success in the majors and the big events. Tough guy.
And I suppose the other thing now, Boyd, is he's also got the experience of being there now and to know what it's all about and then step up and step one home.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I don't think it gets any bigger than being in the final group of the Masters with Tiger Woods, going for his first major after not winning for 11 years. I mean, that environment was crazy. That'll probably go down as the most famous golf tournament that has ever been played, in my opinion. Even if he goes on to win more majors, like that was what Yeah, that's the greatest
Oh, that was
sports comeback
unbelievable.
in my opinion. And he's right there in the mix, really, until number 12. I mean, he has a great chance to win that golf tournament. And, he didn't win it, but he always learns from things. He always soaks up the positives. He's always been like that. He gets over bad things quickly, takes the positives out, and moves on. And, he went to the Open Championship and took third right after. He learns from being in those situations, and it gives him tons of confidence. I remember he had a chance his rookie year at Chambers Bay. He was in one of the final groups at Chambers Bay, and he wasn't as comfortable. I mean, he's a rookie on the tour. Um, just it's all uncharted territory. At the Masters, warming up, it felt like a normal tour event. Like he was calm, he was confident, he expected to win. He knew he was going to win, and obviously he didn't. But you can tell when the guy feels like it's going to happen or he's supremely confident. And that I told him that after too. It's like, hey, that's how it's supposed to be. There was no nerves. Everything seemed like in rhythm. He was very comfortable, and that shows you a lot of how much confidence he has in his skill sets and in having more experience now, being in those big moments. It's becoming more normal to him, to where he just got to keep on knocking on the door, and it'll open up. He's had some chances to win. I think some people are entitled to their own opinions, not entitled to their own facts. He's had the lead. He had the lead at Puerto Rico, won there. He was tied for the lead in Bahamas, took second. Had the lead against Webb Simpson at Waste Management, lost in a playoff. Um, he he shows up. You never see him in a final round blow up or choke. He just doesn't do that. He doesn't have it in him. There's been a few things, even at Xander Schauffele in China, the World Golf event. Man, Xander makes an incredible birdie on 17, up and over a tier, and another one on 18, and birdie's the playoff hole. So I think that's the thing, is once Tony gets the next win, it'll just open up the floodgates, because he does perform great under high pressure. It just, a few things just need to go his way at the right moment to get over that little hump, and the rest will be history.
It's fascinating, fascinating. So if we take you then, Boyd, we talk about all these players you work with,
Yeah.
all these great players, and every player just getting better and better and better. What would you say is the Boyd Summerhays philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that I've just learned from my mistakes. I was a good player in junior golf, won some big tournaments, won 3 junior worlds, was the number one junior in junior golf at one
Then you were
point with
a
the
great
Golf Week
player.
rankings. I played at Oklahoma State, and then I got my tour card. I played on tour, lost my card, didn't have success. Played the Korn Ferry Tour, played the PGA Tour Canada, played for 11 years. So you learn some things, and I learned more from the failures I had, really. Honestly, I did some good things that I've still kept in my teaching, and then I've just life's the best teacher, right? Experiences. So when I work with a player, I'm trying to take the thing that I think they do most predominantly and most naturally in their swing. Tony's always had a flex left wrist coming down, and so he may play from a different position than another player. So it's building the swing that works for them. That's basically only about skill sets. Like when I look at
Hopefully, we'll get Boyd back in a minute. He seems to have disappeared. Oh, he's gone. Let's see if we can get him back. Oh, you're on. He's on. Here we go.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
You disappeared for a moment.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't even know what I was rambling on about. Do you remember what I was saying?
I was asking you about the boys
Oh,
Summerhays
okay, yeah.
of how you work now, what what you like to see in things.
Yeah. So I guess I was saying like um I definitely had some experience and some success as a player, but I made a lot of mistakes too. So I took those failures and like when I look at someone's game or swing, I take what I feel like they do naturally. Everyone has their little bit of their DNA in their swing, and you want to build around it. But then it's just getting to the skill sets, just not getting into um, so much building their swing. But I come from a playing background where I feel like obviously the game is way more than just a golf swing, but it's chipping, putting, confidence, mental game, course management. I definitely feel like I'm more holistic or kind of do everything with the players. There's a few players that hire out other coaches to do certain parts of their game, but for the most part, I've always just kind of been their head coach to where you're looking at all the little holes in their games. You're kind of ranking them in priority um, and chipping away at the top priority, then the next and the next. That's going to save you the most shots, strokes gained. So I think that's helped me in a sense that, um, as a player, I was successful when I was only really worried about skill sets, getting shots that I didn't have or shots that I needed to play at the next level I was trying to get to. And I started to not be successful when I got stuck on a range, only working on my golf swing and positions. To get to the
And how
tour, I was always playing money games, matches, um, working on just specific, very specific skill sets or shots that I needed to have. And then when I started to kind of digress, I was just sitting on the range looking at positions, trying to perfect a golf swing. So I didn't have time to really work on all parts of my game because I was just sitting there obsessing about my swing, expecting to build a swing that doesn't hit bad shots, but we know that doesn't exist. So with my players, I've tried to steer them away from some of the mistakes I made as a player and then steer them towards their strengths, building, you know, playing around what they're good at and making the strengths even stronger or keeping them strong and then choosing a few weaknesses that you can make a little bit better. Someone that's always been a poor chipper isn't going to chip like Jordan Spieth that's been chipping great since he was 14 years old. DJ has been driving it good for years and years. So I think with the players I have, we have a really good idea of their strengths and weaknesses, what to work on, and then the goals they have, and you just kind of holistically, well-rounded, go about trying to just shape shots and little 0.25 strokes gained, half a shot here, an eighth of a shot here and there.
and you say the one thing that comes out of this, Boyd, is you keep saying skill sets.
Yeah.
How do you evaluate the skill sets to what you need to do?
Well, I think a lot of people think that tour players are good at everything, and that's just not the truth. You look at, I've seen old video of Jack Nicklaus chipping. He couldn't even chip, right? He drove it great. He had power. He was a phenomenal putter. He obviously was mentally really tough, but he wasn't a great chipper or bunker player. He would admit to those things. You look at Phil Mickelson, incredible short iron player, incredible wedge player, the best chipper I've ever seen. Great putter, super confident, unflappable, fearless guy, mentally tough, but he couldn't drive the ball. And he still got to, without Tiger Woods, he would have been the number one player in the world, right? Tiger battled his driver for most of his career. When he got his driver going for a few years, he was unbeatable. But for the most part, you look at the best players in the world, and they have things that are less than average on tour or just very mediocre, but they have two or three really, really strong skill sets. So that's what I'm looking at for a player. You can't survive on one skill set. But when you have two or three skill sets that are above average and some skill sets are highly above average, then you can be a great player. You look at Rory McIlroy. He practices his driver a lot. Well, he's already good at it, and you'd wonder why he'd be hitting that many drivers. Well, it makes him who he is. He's not just a good driver of the ball. He's phenomenal. Dustin Johnson, the same thing. Brooks Koepka, they drive the ball so good. It's crazy. Tony Finau, same thing. They're so highly efficient or advanced in that skill set that it carries them. Now, if someone's good at putting, driving the ball, an iron player, say they're a little off on chipping or bunker play, you can work around a couple of weaknesses in your game if you have a two or three real strengths in your game. So I think that is one of the fallacies of high level golf, is that you'll teach some mini tour players or guys on the Korn Ferry Tour or even struggling tour pros, and they think they need to be good at everything, and you don't. You got to be very good at two or three things, and you can be average on two or three skill sets, and you can even have something that actually is a huge deficiency. I'd say Lee Westwood wasn't a very good chipper either. You could almost argue he had some issues with it, and even the putter would let him down, but he was so good at driving, so good with these irons, and he was mentally tough. You know, he had a hell of a career having a weakness or two. I mean, and you could go on and on with players that have weaknesses that are top 10 players in the world.
And why? And with all these players, how are you measuring that? Are you measuring that against themselves? Or are you measuring that? What sort of statistic are you using there to base off? You know, whether they're weak, what they need to be at with the different levels.
Yeah, I mean, in school, my two favorite subjects were English. I loved writing. My mom was an English teacher, so she always harped on us on grammar, but I actually liked writing. You look at like my Instagram stuff, it's kind of just journaling. I enjoy it. I don't do a lot of technique on Instagram, but I'm just kind of, journaling my life a little bit. I love writing, but I love math. I did college math when I was a junior in high school, and it made sense to my brain because there was always an answer. I love that. And so I was always prone to percentages, analytics of the game. I love that stuff. So when you say, who am I comparing against that? You're comparing that against tour average, but also against themselves for sure. And so I think that when you see where all this great information, you got some statisticians in the game that are being so helpful to all of us, to where obviously you got shot links, so you can see your players' data. You can see what they're good at and what they're not, or where they need to improve on, or where they are compared year to year. But with all these people pushing the game forward, you know, you got Mark Brody, you got Scott Fawcett, you got with Decade Golf, you got these great resources of just the analytics and the numbers of percentage of the game, where you can really pinpoint for players what to work on and what to use.
And I mean, you know, there's so many, isn't there, over the years, who would have just stood on the range and hit balls and thought, I'll be better tomorrow. You know, whereas really, you know, that if we don't delve into the player and what makes the player and what makes the player's game, and the whole holistic side that, you know, we can now get involved in, players just, you know, end up hitting balls on the range all day.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously that's just one part of the game. When I look at, you know, I make my students at a young age, junior golfers, kind of do a strength and weakness chart. I start with 15th club, mental game, emotional game, as if there was strokes gained, mental attitude, where would you be? And they can list their strengths and weaknesses. I go to T-ball game, interestingly, after that. I don't, you know, putting is huge. We know you putt for dough, but I say all the time, you drive for dough, putt for more dough. You know, good drivers of the ball, it makes the game so easy. On the amateur level, it saves their game, and on the tour level, you know, when you drive it good on the PGA Tour, it makes life a lot easier. Putting, then I look at their physical attributes, their power, mobility, their health, chipping pitches, anything inside of 40, 50 yards, recovery shots, iron game, golf IQ, course management, game management, and then wedge game. And you look at those areas and you just start to try to make a strength and weakness chart in those areas. And then I like my students to prioritize them as if they knew if there were strokes gained. So we had this camp a couple years ago, and Preston made one of his weaknesses. It was like the 50-yard bunker shot. Well, a 50-yard bunker shot, you should probably never leave yourself that more than a couple times a year. That's either a horrific layup or a really bad second shot into a par 5. And so, yeah, I don't know how many guys that are that good at that shot. So it's not really something that was going to affect his strokes gained. But if you aren't good from 5 to 6 feet, 4 feet in putting, I mean, you better start there, right? And so I always have my players and young kids, junior students, my own kids, Preston, Grace, and Cam, start to really know their strengths and weaknesses, not just so they can just practice weaknesses all day, but so they actually know what their strengths are, so they can always be working on those to keep them strong, and so they can start to identify themselves as what they are as a player. And then they can just kind of rank what order they should be chipping off their weaknesses at, and what that would equate to strokes gained in their opinion. So they get pretty good over, a year's time of really starting to know their game, because I think that's the biggest thing is between a player, a caddy, and a coach, you should know darn well, even without analytics, if you're three smart people and observing people and you're watching them play tournaments, you can see what needs to be done, and then you have the stats to back it up or confirm it, and it's an exciting time in golf and instruction as far as all the information that's out there, with technology, and then also just with all the analytics of the game.
I think it's mate. Do you know what? I think it's a great idea as well. To as a young kid, who am I? What is my game?
Yeah.
What am I good at? What am I not good at? And that it can grow, can't it? You know what I mean? It can get a bit better now, and you can. But this is how I play the game.
Yeah, it's like
Tony Finau. I am me.
Yeah.
This is how I play. This is how I'm going to score.
Yeah, for sure. It's like Rory for a while there. His putter was kind of letting him down once in a while. I wouldn't say his wedge game was that great, but you could tell he's a great chipper, great bunker player, incredible ball striker. Well, he still kept working on his ball striking all the time because that's who he is. And then, he got some help with the putter. He's been rolling it great, and then he'll go off on these years where it's like, whoa, it's crazy. So it's not like you're trying to take someone that's done something poorly for years or a decade and make it a strength. You're supposed to make it like less shitty, for lack of better words, right? Improve it a little bit on the weaknesses, and then keep the strength strong. Because I think a player runs the risk of working so much on a weakness that probably has some diminishing returns, and they, in the chase of trying to make something that was really weak, a strength, they start to slide on their strength, and that actually has a worse effect or a bigger effect on their game. So you got to know who you are as a player, have that in front of you all the time, work on your strengths, and then try to make some weaknesses just average. Start there. If it gets to average, and then you can take that average aspect to a strength, but don't think that you're going to go from just being a poor chipper for 10 years and then you're going to be chipping it like Jordan Spieth or Phil Mickelson. That's just not practical, and I don't think it's effective that way. So I think if I can encourage any of the listeners to do something, it would be make a strength and weakness chart, identify who you are as a player, and then take some weaknesses and just make the goal of becoming average at it, or less worse, less bad.
Do you know what, Boyd? That is brilliant, and that is a great place to turn this off, isn't it? Because I know you've got to go as well now. But Boyd, I really appreciate your time. That is ace.
Oh yeah, it was fun chat.
Great guy, great to talk to. Some great information, and I think for me, I will definitely get my little ones, my juniors, with their own strengths and weaknesses. I think that's great advice.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Thanks for the time, Boyd. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You're a star. Thanks, mate. See you soon.
Okay, have a good day.